Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gouda GP podcast. Today, we are talking all things Cadillac F1, just giving all our thoughts kind of around everything, rumours, and what we think is going to be going on with Cadillac going into next year. I'm, of course, joined by Bradley. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, no, pretty good. I mean, getting through this summer break slowly but surely, but we got some stuff to talk about. We've got plans, and starting off today with Cadillac, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the season started and we started to write down some ideas for podcasts that we might do in an off week. This was the first thing written down for us, was talking about Cadillac, how we think it's going to go. Obviously, the newest team in the sport since Haas in 2016. So it's been a while since we've had a new team. And I think for a lot of people, it's what's the word? It's a very new experience for a lot of people because Netflix brought in a lot of fans, and Netflix has only really been around since 2018, Netflix's first season with F1. So it's a new experience for a lot of people. I mean, I came into F1 personally myself in 2016, so I knew Haas was a new team, but I didn't really experience the year before to kind of really get it. So this is the first time going into a new season for me where there is a new team coming in. Obviously, Bradley, you've been watching the sport for much longer than I have, so you've probably seen a couple of teams come and go. So this is probably a bit more normal for you.
Well, I mean, in some ways, yes, in some ways, obviously, it is still very exciting. I mean, it's been a decade now since the last team we had that was a complete new institution. So it is exciting times. It's exciting to see what they do. I think as well, the cost cap, obviously the first team to enter under the cost cap era, makes it interesting to see whether that allows them to potentially be more competitive. I mean, we have seen teams like Marussia and Caterham really struggle to be in any form competitive and bow out the sport with very few highlights, if any at all. So it'll be interesting to see if this will allow for a probably not top midfield car, but at least somewhere in there fighting for points on the odd occasion and being sort of roughly where we see sort of an Alpine or an RB today.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think apart from the drivers, the biggest talking point is where they're going to stack up going into their first season. And the cost cap really does make this a lot different to normal. And it is a big revelation because will the cost cap limit them in the fact of they can't just blast a ton of money into it and hope it works? Or does it almost create a reformed approach that helps them get into the right place? Like, I don't know what sort of effect this cost cap is going to have on this team and how it will help them develop from brand new, essentially. Because, I mean, this is a team that hasn't bought straight into another team like you'll see with Audi going into next year as well. This is completely brand new. So,
I mean, look, in some areas, sort of staff and that, they typically, most staff contracts don't count towards the cost cap. So that's not too bad in that area in terms of developing the car. I mean, I'm sure they have a plan. Like they're committed
yeah.
to joining. They'll have an idea of what they can do, what they can't do, any problems they may have. Um, yes, it'll be interesting to see that they obviously can't just go, oh yeah, here's £4 billion. We're just going to chuck at this project for fun. Um, but it might lead to better, more considered approaches that allow them to progress better than they may
Yeah,
otherwise would have if they're just going, let's chuck a load of money at this thing.
for sure. For sure. Now, going into this season, obviously there is a lot of unknowns. But what is a win for Cadillac? Because obviously, if they're competitive, is that class as a win? Because if they're still finishing last, but they're kind of competitive, is that a win for them? Like, what? How low is the bar going into their first year?
I think scoring points and not finishing last would be a positive season. I think if they come
Yeah.
out of that having secured top 10 finishes, beaten another established team in the paddock, it will allow them to have a stable footing to build on and continue to grow, hopefully.
I mean, it's not out the picture either. We saw it with Haas, obviously in 2016. That Australia race was great for them.
Mm.
I think people would go absolutely crazy if Cadillac was able to kind of repeat what they did. But with how competitive, obviously, the championship is, there's talks of regulation changes as well, which creates a massive unknown as is. And there's so many unknowns kind of going into the season that you can't really guess anything, because they're the only team going into this season not knowing any different from the regulations that are happening next time, you know? So it's an interesting situation to be in. Do you think it was the right decision coming in into a new era, or do you think they should have come in this year and found their footing this year to then like properly go for it next year? Like, I've got an opinion on this, but I want to hear your opinion first. Like, do you think it was the right decision going for 26 as opposed to 25?
I mean, I just don't know, because obviously it is such a big unknown, but I think if you look at it and sort of the risk versus reward, the fact that they won't know any different might play into their hands. Because they're fully
Yeah.
committed to this regulation change, they will be focusing on what will work for those specific regulations as opposed to trying to, you know, shake over old habits from prior regulations. They are focused specifically on habits that will directly benefit this regulation change that they're entering into. Where if they had entered in this year, they've got a year that they've got to figure out what they're doing with their car before having to then completely change the car, which doesn't seem smart. So I think 26 is probably a good foothold. It could be argued that maybe 27 would have been better. Have a year of the regulation change, see what teams are doing that's working, and then use that for your car or similar
Yeah.
designs. But I think this is sort of a safe option where it's such an unknown that they have the chance to cause a real shake up to the grid.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if they get remotely close, they bring in the right drivers, that shake-up could be massive. Um, Obviously, we don't know who they're going to bring in, what the approach is. I mean, people would love to be a fly on the wall. We're kind of seeing this is the F1 version of the transfer window for us football fans. Like, people really want to know the inside scoop. We want it now, we want to know what's going on. But we haven't got that yet. And we also don't get, because we don't know, and because they're a new team, they're not getting pressed about it. Like, because like, let's say Red Bull, for example, they probably, Horner at the time, now Mekis, probably got a question every week about who's going to be driving your car. Toto Wolff had probably got it every single week while he was choosing between Max and George. So like, we get a little bit of snippets here and there to the point where we get tired of it. We go, gosh, they're talking about this second Red Bull seat again. How many times are we going to talk about it? Is the media just going to keep asking this? Whereas you look at
You
Cadillac
can't
and it's the
say that
complete
after I
opposite,
posted a
because
TikTok about the second Red Bull seat today. That's
I
poorly
did see
timed.
that and I did enjoy it. But but like, because it's Cadillac and there's not many representatives at every single race, and they're also not yet obligated to do all the media stuff, we don't know anything about what they're going for, who they're going for, reasons why, what they might be looking for. We know nothing about that. So it makes it really interesting. But to go back on to like, did they join in the right year? I completely agree with you. I think 25 would have been a bad year for them, because you put so much into building your first car to then switch it all up going into next year. Obviously, 27, you could say maybe would have been better, but they come into 26 and they are literally like a landmine, and they could just blow this whole grid like out of proportion, because we could be going into testing next season, and Cadillac's like, look, they're not going to be at the top. It'd be unreasonable to think they're going to be at the top. But say if they were around that top 10 range, like close enough, and you're coming out the test going, is that pace real? Like, have they actually just done that? And then you've got all the people behind them going, is that their true pace? Is that our true pace? And it's going to make so much speculation going into the first round, and nobody's really going to know until round 2 or 3 where everybody sits as usual. But the fact you've got a complete anomaly of no data about this team, there's literally nothing about them. You don't know how they did last year. There's a question mark for them every single round for this first couple of years, which is going to make it super exciting, especially as a neutral. If you're a neutral, you're going to love this team going into next year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, depending on where they are, us, obviously, as fans of what are currently midfield teams, might not be so happy to see them on the grid if they're obviously beating our cars.
Yep.
If they're behind, obviously, we won't mind it. But no, it definitely throws something into the mix that I think the sport needs. I mean, obviously, the regulation changes are exciting. Obviously, that'll be talked about. But I think having a new team, a new competitor, 2 more cars on the grid, 2 more chances for mistakes or incidents or talking points just adds another element that I think, especially because of how some of the races have been this year, after how good the back end of 2024 was, is something that the sport needs just to spice it up, just to give the fans something after we've had probably 4 or 5 really dull races just in the first half of the year already.
Yeah, it's been a tough year because it has been a qualifying sort of year, and the dirty air is completely back and is as bad as it's ever been. And dirty air is what kills Formula One, really. When you look at everything and every bad race or every sort of difficult season to watch because it's just so boring sometimes, it's all because of dirty air, because people just can't get closer to one another. Even in like the years Lewis and Mercedes were doing great. I mean, that year of Rosberg, we saw great battles between the Mercs, but say for like the years where it was Lewis and Valtteri, where it was a bit more predictable, let's say, it becomes like there was still like good races in that era. Whereas now, I think even though you've got 2 drivers at the top of the championship, which aren't necessarily the best drivers you can get, and they are making mistakes, every race still is quite boring because there's not many overtakes going on at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but, that's something we as fans have to accept sometimes. And it's what makes the great races so great, almost. It's like they say, you can't have light without dark. It's just one of those.
But yeah, because if every race was what we would consider to be a good race as of now, if we got that every race, it would become a mediocre race, and then a bad race now would become an absolute awful race.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going into next year, we hope for a little closer, hopefully, and I think Cadillac are a big part of that. And depending on what drivers they bring in, we might see more incidents than other drivers they bring in. I mean, with that, I think we should maybe go on probably to the biggest talking point of Cadillac, and probably the bit everyone's most excited for is the 2 extra seats on the Formula One grid. I've got my theories. I know you've got your theories. Do you want to kind of give your kind of... Who do you think's a shoe-in for this seat? Let's start with that.
I mean, I'm expecting a Perez announcement in the next month. So that's Perez essentially locked in for me, I think. I mean, for me, I think Perez would be a really smart signing. He's someone who has experience in all areas of the grid, whether that's back marker, midfield, up at the front. Obviously, we know he's pretty handy. Obviously, we know the Red Bull car has problems, and that the last couple of years of his time in the sport probably doesn't reflect his abilities. We know he can be great with
Yeah,
tyres. We know he can deliver very good results, particularly in specific tracks, which when you're in the midfield, sometimes one good result can be the difference between a couple of positions in the constructors. So
yeah,
someone like that would be a really valuable asset to bring in um, for the first couple of years until they can find someone or have that pull. Because that's at the minute their problem is they have no pull. Like it's not like Mercedes or Aston with the money or Ferrari with the historic success that they've had. Cadillac don't have that to be able to lure drivers away from other teams. So they're having to look for drivers that currently don't have seats, and Perez is quite an obvious one to go for. For me, that's a shoe-in. Um, I expect Bottas to get the second seat. I don't necessarily want Bottas to get the second seat, but that's who I expect to get it for similar reasons. Obviously, the experience he has, development-wise, very handy qualifier, which in some races, depending on how the regulations go, could prove very valuable. Obviously, we're thinking Monaco, we're thinking Hungary, but even in other races, depending on how the regulations are, a good qualifying can be the difference between just outside the points and just inside the points. So, two, don't get me wrong, two solid drivers for what Cadillac are looking for, but two very similar profile in terms of a driver,
yeah.
where I feel the best bet would to be sort of spread your assets essentially and have differing types of drivers just in case and see what works.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is something I've kind of talked about with a couple of people at work is when you look at the profiles of Bottas and Perez, you've got a very similar profile there, but the positives of it is that although their career profiles are very similar, you've got two very different experiences of Formula One that kind of ended in similar ways. But then you've got also two streams of feedback where they've both been in constructors winning cars and constructors winning teams, and that information is invaluable. Like that is so important, especially for a new team. Knowing how to win is huge. But like you say, because they've got no pull right now, and their pull is we're a new team trying to find our foot in, and this is a shot back onto the grid. It's it's almost wasted to have those two drivers there. I don't want to say that because in their best interest, if I had money in this team and I really wanted it to succeed, I'd be going Perez and Bottas all day. But would you almost want to go down the kind of route that most teams go down, like we've got Merc with this year, having that experienced driver, team leader, and then you've got the rookie trying to make a name for themselves? Is that something they sort of go for? Because say if we get 3-4 years down the line, they haven't done anything amazing. Maybe their pull is even worse now because all they are is literally a seat on the grid, and they haven't done much since joining the sport. But if they did bring in a rookie this year, trained him up, really created a bond with this driver, even when they have no pull, they can bring in an F2 driver, and all of a sudden they've got kind of this sort of roles kind of building straight into themselves where you've got this once rookie, now experienced with the team, experienced in Formula One, who's going to be your team leader and is loyal to you because you gave them their first shot in Formula One. There's plenty of drivers in that F2 grid that deserve a seat right now. There's plenty of drivers in the reserve category, in the reserve driver roles that deserve a seat right now. Looking at a certain green car reserve driver. So there's plenty of space, and unlike kind of because when I say pull, I think of football being like if you've got good pull, you can kind of bring in anyone. sort of thing. But F1's a little bit different because there is only now 22 seats on the grid. That's 22 in the world. That's not like, say, a footballer where, as much as it is the 0.0001% that get there, there's a lot more than 20. There's a lot more than 22 spaces in the world, you know. So there's always going to be pull, and they're not going to struggle to fill that seat. But it's whether they fill it with the right person. I don't know, what do you think is the better way for them? Do you think they do go down that traditional route of team leader, rookie, or do you think they go for two experienced drivers that are going to give them the feedback to kind of set them along the way?
I mean, do we feel they need an American driver? I mean, American team haven't really looked down that path. Obviously, F1 are desperate to get more American fans into the sport, as we've seen in their expansion in races into the US of absolutely shoddy street circuits that I really hate. But we'll leave that for another day. But it's interesting. Do they bring in a Jack Crawford, someone from IndyCar? Do they bring in and have that sort of national interest in order to attract fans, money, sponsors, la-di-da? Is that a route they can go? I mean, Jack hasn't been doing terribly in F2 this season. I mean,
am I right in saying he's P2 right now?
Maybe. I mean, I feel what could be interesting is we're in a really interesting situation with the F2 Championship right now. As the championship leader isn't really linked anywhere, and that he won F3, is leading F2, is a talent but isn't really backed by anyone.
Yeah.
Let's say, hypothetically, he goes on and wins the title this year. Would it be the wise move to put him in the car?
Now, on paper, yes. I'd say it would be the move because you've got a driver there that is clearly talented. Also won F3 as well, like you say. Won F3 as well, which is a big thing. If you can win both, you've put yourself in good stead to be in Formula 1. But it's taken him a while to get there in F2. What's this now? His fourth season? Or maybe his third?
Rookie season. Fornaroli is currently leading the championship. This isn't for sure.
Wait, who's leading it now?
Fornaroli.
Oh, I take it back. I thought we were talking about for sure. Sorry.
No, Fornaroli.
I am back in Silverstone. I am back in Silverstone. Gosh, okay. Well, if it is his rookie season, then you look at other drivers who have done it in their rookie season, and I'll just list a couple names for you. You got Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri. Russell did it in his rookie year, I believe.
I don't know that one. I know Leclerc and Piastri, but I don't know Russell.
If you leave it at Leclerc and Piastri, just for argument's sake, leave it at Leclerc and Piastri. And then you look at where they are now. One's in the most successful team in Formula 1, and the other one is also now in one of the best teams in the sport, highly regarded as the guy that's going to win the championship this year. Like, it puts you in good stead, and it really shows your talent if you can do it in your rookie year, because F2 is difficult. As much as it doesn't seem difficult, it is difficult, and to do it in your rookie year is insane. So if they do get Fornaroli in, I think it's a great shout for them. I think kind of building for the future from the beginning is a great shout, because if you do give him that shot and he stays loyal to you, or even if he goes to another team on the grid and he displaces another good driver, he creates opportunities for you just because you gave him a chance now, you know? So it almost works in your benefit to have him now, as opposed to if you did go down a line of feedback, creating a knowledgeable team through Perez, through Bottas. They're not going to be on this grid for another 5 years. In fact, if you ask most people, a lot of them would say it would be kind of a swan song of their career, the twilight era, maybe some people would say. So it's not a long-term fix. This is like United bringing Ronaldo back into the team. Like, he wasn't here for long. We didn't expect him to be here for long. Obviously, we didn't want it in the circumstances that it happened. But you bring in a Perez, you bring in a Bottas, they're not going to be here for a long time. They've had their careers, and as neutrals, we would understand if they went for those two. But then you'd also go, I would love to see them give a chance to a reserve driver, an F2 driver, one of those. People would have loved to see it.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, we all, I think the current expectation is Perez and Bottas.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine I'll ask you this and we'll discuss it, but I imagine we're all expecting the same thing, but obviously what people are wanting is necessarily different. I mean, some people are going to want a rookie, some people are going to, maybe have a driver they really enjoy in the lower formula that they want to see get that seat. Some people are going to have a reserve driver of a team they like, want to get that chance that they might not get in the team they support. But yeah, I mean, so who do you expect to get the 2 Cadillac seats, and who do you want to get the 2 Cadillac seats?
It's not wildly different, if I'm completely honest with you. Perez and Bottas, I think, is a given. Like, I think Perez is the most likely to get a seat. Like, I basically, without the confirmation, we've got everything but the confirmation really here. But I would quite happily say it's gonna be Perez, and I wouldn't put money on it, but I would say quite handily it's going to be him. Second seat, the Bottas social media video just makes me think he's in, but he's also known for the mega trolling online. So if he doesn't get it, then fair enough. But I don't know. I feel like these two drivers are kind of confirmed for this team in different ways without the confirmation. Because we could go into next year with Cadillac having Bottas and a rookie, or Perez and a rookie, or both. But you look at it now from where we are recording this, and you go, those two just look like, why wouldn't they get it, sort of thing at the moment. Now, to go into the more fun bit, which is the want. Now, I personally wouldn't want either of those drivers to get a seat. I think they're great drivers, but I think Bottas had his career. I think Perez had his career. I'd like to see Perez come back in, and because he's the only driver possibly in the whole history of the sport that has ever not been in for a year, but his stock has increased because of how bad that Red Bull seat has been this year.
Yeah.
And people go, hang on, we were complaining about Bottas finishing 6th in the championship. Red Bull would kill for a 6th in the championship driver right now. And
did you say Bottas?
Sorry, Perez. They'd kill for a 6th in the championship. Anyway, slip it.
I mean, I was just more confused about why, Bottas and Red Bull are in that conversation. Now, that would be
I meant Perez.
That would be a story, wouldn't it, if Bottas got announced for Red Bull?
It would be interesting. I'm more expecting an Alpine sort of announcement sooner or later, but
tomorrow for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I kind of expected it already.
Yeah.
If I'm completely honest, I think if they were going to replace Colapinto, I think they would have done it by now. But who knows? I know Paul Aron really impressed in Hungary during the test, and he set the fastest lap on the day in that Alpine, which obviously doesn't mean a lot. But considering Colapinto crashed out that same day and did not have a good day of it, he might have just put his foot in. So maybe that's why there's a delay, because they're now trying to choose between Aaron and Bottas. Who knows? Who knows what that Alpine team's doing? It's a car crash anyway. Anyway, back to it. So I think Perez is shoehorned in. I would like to see him do it because the story of him actually having more stock now than a year ago, even though he hasn't been driving, is super funny to me. So I would kind of like to see him come in and actually prove, hang on, actually I'm still a great driver that you saw in the Racing Point, the Force India, whatever that team was called when he first started driving for it. I think it was just Force India. So he's done great things, and it almost kind of create a perfect end to his career if he did do well in that Cadillac for maybe 2 years. In terms of like anyone else, I want to see a rookie in there.
Who?
I mean,
Give me a name. I need a name.
Because Drugovich, you could talk about. I always talk about Drugovich, and Bradley loves when I talk about Drugovich because I'm actually giving kind of kudos to one of his drivers. Because I do think Drugovich deserves a seat, and it's not coincidence that whenever anyone says who deserves to be in F1 right now but isn't, every driver shouts out Drugovich. And I would like to see him get a chance, but he hasn't had a competitive race in how long? Like possibly 4 years? Might even be more.
Well,
so like
won the title in 22, so since then.
Okay, so 3 years.
Yeah, it's just interesting that obviously he stepped in the car for FP1 at Hungary, and whenever he does step into that car, he does a decent job. Pace-wise, like he's not one of those rookies that steps into the car and is 6-7 tenths off their teammate, which we wouldn't judge them for because they're stepping into the car for an FP1. But he is consistently only around a tenth, 3 tenths off whoever he's not replacing, essentially, which is really good going. And I mean, I'll move on to my opinions after you've shared yours, but yeah. I mean, there's a reason why people still regard him quite highly.
For sure, and like also another point of that, because he's not had that competitive year, like those competitive years, and he's still only a couple of tenths down. That makes it even crazier. But anyway, I would love to see Drugovich get a shout at it, whether he gets it or not. I think it'd be cool. Obviously, to see the F2 champion come in, I always enjoy an F2 champion coming in because they've proven themselves and they've got their rewards. So I'd love to see whoever wins the F2 championship this year come in. This is a real kind of like Kimi Antonelli sort of thing here. But with Alex Dunn, obviously, he's in that McLaren Academy. You look at that McLaren team right now, and if there's no fallout, that team is staying that team for maybe 10 years, possibly more if there's no moves, which locks him out of F1 for 10 years if he tries to stay loyal to that program. So for him, even though I don't think he even has a shot of winning it this year. I honestly don't know what's going on with the F2 Championship right now, as you can tell from the visual. So if he doesn't win it this year, it doesn't really matter if he gets that seat in Cadillac, because it's almost kind of like he's played chess a little bit and he's gone, right, I can't get in here. If I get in here, this almost makes my career, because now I can prove myself on the stage that I want to be in. I'm here, I've made it. And once you're in F1, it doesn't matter where you're at, because if you do a good enough job, you can end up at any of those teams, really. So if he can somehow, against all odds, get that Cadillac seat, he then gets rid of the main issue in his career right now, which is the fact he's in that McLaren Academy and he's got 2 great drivers in that McLaren car that aren't going to move. It almost works perfectly for him. And it kind of could save his career, even though it hasn't really started yet.
Didn't we take you for a chess man? But okay, we'll let the analogy slide.
I'm not a chess man.
I could tell.
But anyway.
So If I had to push you for two names, who do you want in those Cadillac seats?
Biggest wants. If I could put two drivers, I'm F1 managering it. I put in Drugovich and Dunn because you get a bit of feedback with Drugovich. He finally gets his shot in Formula One, and he's not old, but he's not young. So you'd get him for a couple of years, and then on Dunn's part, you're given a chance to a driver that is looking at their career right now, and I think he would be loyal just because looking at the situation he's in right now, he could hit a roadblock very easily in his career.
Would him
Those are my two.
leaving the McLaren Academy to join Cadillac prove he's not loyal, though? And potentially throw that span into the works? That eventually, if another team comes calling, let's say has a really good rookie year and another team comes calling, Dunn leaves for them.
I think an academy loyalty is different to a F1 team loyalty in terms of if you look at a lot of drivers that have stuck to their academy, it's shot them in the foot. There's very few teams where very few drivers that have stuck to their academy and actually benefited from it. If you want to look at benefited drivers, I'd say Leclerc,
Max.
Lando, Max, those three. If you want to look at drivers where it didn't benefit them, I'm going to say George. He got stuck in that Williams for way too long.
Interesting.
And I'd also no, because like the George one, really he should have been in that car the year before. I think he was ready the year before, which was winning races. He came into the team and that team had dropped. He never got a chance of that success since the 2020 Sakir Grand Prix. So that was rough for him, and his career is different because of it. I think another driver where they've stayed loyal and it hasn't worked. I mean, was Drugovich part of the Aston Martin Academy?
Yeah.
Or was he just signed to them? Okay, that's a massive one. That's a massive showcase of it. So, being in a team and getting your first shot on the biggest stage, I think creates more loyalty than being in an academy for a team does.
Okay.
Personally, in my opinion.
Okay. No,
so
no,
therefore,
no.
I don't think
I
it'd
was
be a
just
massive
posing a
one for
question.
Dunn.
I mean, yeah.
No, for sure. So
Okay.
I don't think it'd be a massive one for
No.
them to think about if Dunn does leave them.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I yapped. So let me know what is your wants and who do you think is in that Cadillac?
My expectations the same. I expect it to be Perez and Bottas rather boringly, I want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be like, oh my god, Lewis Hamilton has gone to Ferrari levels of story. It's just, cool, fun.
Yeah.
Hold it. But who I want to see, Drugovich is one I would like to see. I would like to see him on the grid. I mean, you know, Brazil, it's a fun country to go to for the Grand Prix. The fans there are great. It'd be great for them to have another driver as well as Gabriel Bortoleto to have on the grid.
Yeah.
Have multiple to cheer on. I mean, obviously, just South American fans in general are normally quite passionate, so having just more opportunities for them to show that passion isn't something I'd be against. Who else I'd want in that Cadillac seat? I would probably go with Yuki. Which, the move to Red Bull is annoying for me that you got promoted, in the sense of if we had been doing a grid predictions, Yuki would have been my first pick for the Cadillac seat, because it's a great opportunity if Lawson had performed decently, for him to escape that Red Bull, like, family, forge his own career, and prove that he's more than just a Honda-backed driver.
Yeah.
And obviously it's still possible given how his time at Red Bull has gone, but it's certainly damaged him. And that means it's less likely in the sense of his stock is decreasing because of what's going on. Obviously, we know the car is a problem based on his performance at the start of the season. He doesn't drop stupidly levels of performance in 2 weeks from round 2 to round 3 when the only difference is the car he's driving. Obviously, we know the car's a problem, but it doesn't still help him that he's still doing so badly. So, I think if he can secure that Cadillac seat, it still gives him an opportunity to rebuild his career, and it's a move that
Yeah.
I think he needs. And, I mean, look, even if I was someone like Isaac Hadjar, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be looking at Cadillac for 26, but if I'm looking for a way to avoid a potential problem being in the second Red Bull seat and Cadillac and performing well, it's certainly an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, kind of going on to that then, that Red Bull, because I think there's a lot of Red Bull drivers on the grid, and you can look across the entire grid further out, and you can see a lot of former Red Bull Academy drivers. So you know that academy works and it picks out the right guys. So if you're Cadillac and you do go, right, I want to sign a driver that's been in the sport and maybe wants to get out of that, you look straight towards Red Bull, right? And you look straight towards that VCARB seat. Between the three drivers, I'd honestly say you go for Hadjar. And this is one thing I was discussing with, once again, someone from work. And you look at Lawson, Yuki, Hadjar. You've got Yuki where his stock is decreasing because although he's a great driver, he's been in the sport for a while now. Are you going to get the same Yuki Tsunoda from before he joined Red Bull, or are you going to get a knocked on confidence Yuki Tsunoda who maybe doesn't believe in himself anymore, and you're trying to reignite a driver that's struggling? Do you go for Liam Lawson, who isn't necessarily proven? He's starting to show glimmers now, but compared to Hadjar, who will be cheaper, he's a rookie. He's not going to be on the same money as Lawson and Yuki. Is he almost the better choice because he's probably the most informed out of the three across the season?
Do you not reckon his
Is he
form would
almost the
demand a
best
higher
choice?
wage, though? Because I wouldn't say Hadjar and Lawson are paid vastly differently. They're still, I mean, Lawson is still a rookie. Hadjar is also a rookie, and Hadjar's been performing better. If I'm looking to move teams after my performances this season, well, I've outperformed my teammate who got the promotion to the better team,
Yeah.
I'm going to be demanding more money. Looking at
Yeah,
someone like
but
Lawson, I reckon Lawson would be the cheapest out the three. I reckon Hadjar's probably the most expensive out the three, maybe on a similar wage to what Yuki would ask for, where Yuki has more experience, but Hadjar has more recently delivered better results.
that's really tough because you know what? With Yuki now, I think if Yuki was still at VCARB, he'd definitely be the most expensive by an absolute country mile.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be mega money difference. But he brings experience, which obviously Hadjar doesn't have, which obviously would hurt him negotiation wise. I'd say Lawson's probably on a little more as of right now, just because he does as much as it was only 11 races. It's 11 races across 2 seasons. This is technically the third season he's driven it. So it's tough, isn't it? Because the wage thing, nobody knows what each other are on unless they're super ridiculously close. So they'd never know for certain if they're paid more than another driver. And it's hard to know what a price is for a driver. But I do find it interesting that you'd say Lawson is the cheapest, because I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
If I was looking to buy for 26, Lawson's easily the cheapest. because
Could
Lawson doesn't have the best form. That's Hadjar. Lawson doesn't have the best experience. That's Yuki. Lawson is just mid in both.
But because he's that balanced, does that make him also be able to demand more by saying, look, you're not going to get the most on form guy like you would have Hadjar, who's probably asking for a loss of money because he will look at those two and go, look at my performances and then look at these two drivers. I'm the best driver you're going to get out of us three. But then you look at Yuki and look at how bad he's been recently because of the car. Are you going to get that same guy that did amazing in that VCARB and was doing great week in, week out? So he almost can use, although he's mid and both, he can always use that balance to help him.
His balance is too skewed, though, I would argue, because he doesn't have vastly more experience than Hadjar to justify picking him over Hadjar on the experience level, and his performances in the Red Bull were worse than Yuki's, and were probably worse than what Yuki would have done in the VCARB, but that we can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of what ifs, I suppose, isn't it? I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because we're also looking at this and going, there's not a chance really that they go for any of those drivers. Because we're looking
this is
at it
almost sort of like an F1
over
manager type like role play that we're just looking at this and
sure.
saying, who would we buy?
For VCARB, obviously, it is a tough one for them because that seat isn't nailed down. As much as it seems nailed down by contracts, it isn't. So they are in that conundrum we're on about, that although we're talking about it in a Cadillac sense of who would we buy, they're looking at it and going, who deserves to be in that seat for next year if we can fix it? Because I think that's what Mekis is probably looking at doing for next year, is making sure that car is drivable for both. I'd say that's probably the biggest agenda for Red Bull right now. So they've got that conundrum of who do we trust most in that seat? And like we've just said for the Cadillac guys, there's not really a correct answer. And they all have positives in a way if you look at it in a certain sense. So it is a really tough conundrum. And then obviously worse for VCARB is that they've got Lin Vlad in the wings, which they regard so highly, which puts just another one in there. So yeah,
he needs another year in F2 though.
I agree with you. I completely agree. And I don't think him having another year in F2 would destroy his F1 career at all, because that Red Bull seat is always open in recent memory. So I completely agree with you. I don't think it's like one of those, it's that chance you got to take it sort of thing. I think it will just open up for him whenever he decides or whenever he has to go up. So, yeah. I mean, we went on to Red Bull there at the end, but that's kind of all we have really to go on for Cadillac right now. There's not too much news. It's very radio silent in the Formula One paddock right now over summer break, as it tends to get. But I'm sure we will find out soon at least one of the drivers for that Cadillac team, to which we will be super excited about, no matter who it is, even if it is the really boring ones of Perez and Bottas. There'll be fans out there. We'll get a bit excited because we'll see them. So yeah, all right. With that, thank you guys so much for listening or watching, however you decide to consume this podcast. Of course, we are now on YouTube. We are now on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. We are also live on TikTok right now. We're live on Twitch right now. If you're on either one of those platforms and you want to join in, see a bit of the BTS side, see us live talking about it, maybe you have questions for us that we could answer during these podcasts, feel free to join us on there. And with that, thank you guys so much. We'll see you out next time, where we find another topic to talk about. We haven't decided which one yet, but we'll figure one out for you. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you guys. See you soon.
Ciao.